Right. First thing I want to say is that I'm not taking commissions. Yes, it says up in the title, commissions. And yes, this was a commission. But I took this commission back in 2018, and I'm just now getting it done. That is how far behind I am. Of course, that was before I had, bought a house and started a makerspace and founded the auxiliary, and that is why I don't have time for commissions anymore. So, not taking commissions. The second thing I want to say is... Naha! Right, well, obviously, as you can see, what we have here is a half-dart Stampede with a Demolisher rocket launcher underslung as a rail attachment. And this was kind of fun to build. It is wired for LiPo. It'll take either a 2S or a 3S. On 3S, it's still having some runaway issues. I really need to find a slightly stronger return spring for the bolt. That was one of the things that solved that issue with Ire, but I didn't have one on hand. And the person who commissioned this wanted to run it on 2S anyway. And on 2S, it runs absolutely flawlessly. The FPS for either should be the same because it's a Springer. It'll just alter the rate of fire. So, when I do plan to build one of these for myself, but, and this was a great practice run. So what do we got going on here? It has a 9 kilogram spring, it has the metal gears, and then it has the Ezekiel half dart kit in it. And I do have video on the installation of the half dart kit, which I'm going to show now. Right, now we get to the fun part. I'm going to be installing an Ezekiel half dart kit into this. And I just watched the video on how to do it, so hopefully I can make it work. Got all of the parts, and it's fairly straightforward and fairly drop in, but there are a few things that you have to modify and or cut. Fair number of parts get removed altogether. So first of all, the tooth dart gate area, that all comes out because this is a sealed breech, so we don't need any of that. So we can get rid of all of this, which is one of the more troublesome parts of this blaster. So it's nice to just have that gone. This will just go in right there and replace it all. I assume this, slides into the barrel, which we will need to trim a little bit, apparently. Just a scotch. As Luchathor would say, bandsaw yes? Bandsaw yes. Lovely. Alright. Barrel assembly is in place. Let's see what else we gotta do. We've got a new release. We have a new plunger head and plunger cap. And we have barrel and guide. So let's get this out of here. Now, while you don't need the dart tooth anymore, he does recommend that you leave the part that usually opens and closes it. It's this little sliding bit in here under this. He recommends leaving it because it gives you a little bit more return power because it's got its own spring. Alternatively, you could increase the return spring, but that's a little bit more dubious, I feel. There we go. So we're going to take that out because we're going to modify that. We're also going to take out catch release and its retention plate. Those both come out. And we have a replacement. It does not use a spring, apparently. You do still use the original screws. Okay. That's in. Now, this does already have the upgraded spring in it. I did that earlier. Okay. We got our heavy spring. We've got our replacement catch and end cap on there. Make sure you have it on the right direction. The tab needs to be pointing towards the gears so that it will engage the release. Oh, I see. Okay, that's why it doesn't need a spring, because the bolt pushes it back. Cool. Take that. Okay. Now that I've got that on there, I'm going to take it right back off again, because I realize I don't want all of this installed when I make the cuts. Goes back out. Alright, now for possibly the most complicated and potentially dubious part. Oh, I like that that all locks in together. I really like that. So, we're going to use a pipe cutter to cut off the barrel. And he says to do it right just below the second little window, with enough of a gap so that you do get a good solid cut. All right. And now we've got an air restrictor that needs dealing with. So I'm going to have to go watch the video on how you remove the air restrictor, because I missed that bit. It probably involves drilling. Alright, turns out it's fairly simple. After you've got that cut off, you cut off the end of the air restrictor, then just using a screwdriver very carefully break the 3 tabs that hold the back cap in, and then it'll fall out, spring will come out, whole thing will fall apart. Lovely. Air restrictor removed. Be careful not to damage the inside of your plunger head while your plunger while you're doing that, of course. Then that will just slot in there, and it should be from the base of the plunger to the very tip, 107 millimeters. So get yourself some calipers. Make sure that is precise, or it won't properly seal when everything is in there. Then you just glue it in place. Now I kind of wish, well, no, I really couldn't have. Okay, anyway. Yeah, then you glue that in place, and that's supposedly about it. So now for the gluing, that'll take a bit. Okay. The bolt is now glued in place, so hopefully I did it right. Install the rest of the parts. Well, that appears to be that. Got our universal mag adapter. Just need to finish soldering up the battery housing. I hadn't done that previously. And I will go ahead and temporary solder this again just so that I can test it. And then if it is, I will add a much longer cord for the XT60 connector. And then it'll be ready to test. Installing the spring and the gears is very simple. The spring just replaces the spring. The gears just replace the current gears. Be sure when you install the gears to lube the ever-loving everything out of it. You don't want those metal gears grinding against each other without copious amounts of lubrication. And they give you a whole tube of it, so don't skimp on the lubrication. The other thing I've discovered is it really doesn't like worn out darts. I got some really wild variants in FPS, everywhere from 95 to 144, when I was using just random darts I took from the dart bin. We will take look at the FPS now using fairly new Gen 2 worker darts. Alright, with fairly new worker darts, we'll see what kind of FPS we're getting, seeing if it's a little more reliable. 122, 127, 131, 134, 131, 135, 138. Yes, very consistent. That's actually remarkably consistent for any build. I like it. So, yeah, the kit works. And pretty spiffy. Let's talk about it some more. So yeah, with good quality, good condition darts, it's very consistent, hitting in the 120s, 130s. I think the highest I've seen it hit is 155, but I think that was mostly because it blew the head off of a dart, which is, again, inconsistencies with poor darts and all that. It was having issues with the sweet oranges, the black rubber-tipped darts with the orange bodies. Those, I was losing a lot of heads and I was getting inconsistent. But with regular workers, it's working quite beautifully. So, yeah. FPS is good. It's about what he was wanting to get out of it. When I build mine, I'm probably going to go with a slightly lighter spring. I'll try to find an 8 or a 7K spring, which will both increase the rate of fire, but also bring that number down. If I can get it consistently under 120, then I'd have a good HVZ blaster. And I'd love to run that and one of the semi-automatic pistols as an HVZ loadout at some point, at some HVZ somewhere. Just because it would really harken back to my earliest HVZ days of running a Stampede and a Barricade, but now it would be half dart magazine. It would be, I'd be able to hold way more ammunition, and I think I would actually really enjoy that particular loadout. It's also way lighter than Ire. I would do something different with the front end, probably go with a Magnus, just so that I have that shield buster super killer functionality. The Demolisher rocket is kind of a inaccurate, being in a hamp and all. The way it is attached, it is technically a rail attachment. It does just attach to the rail. And I used this is custom designed, kind of. I still have not learned how to 3D model. It's a skill I really need to pick up. I'm told it's not too difficult and easy once you get the hang of it, but just haven't had the time to sit down and actually learn how the buttons in the program work. There's lots of videos, need to watch them. There's some good ones at the world's largest mod party. Apparently Coat Duck did a seminar on it, and I really ought to watch that because she is good at what she does. But I took the rail-to-rail adapter that Silver Fox Industries made for making Strifles, Magnus Strifles, and just in my slicer cut it up and got it to the exact dimensions and size that I needed, and then screwed it on, and then used bolts to fully secure it. And it's held so far. I make no promises how long it will hold. If it fails, it will get replaced with metal bands that will be attached and go all the way around, which just won't look as good, but a lot of what this fellow plays is post-apocalyptic stuff, so that might work for him, though the FPS on this I don't think would work. It's right where you need it for our local Nerf wars, but yeah. It doesn't have a paint job. He is a far better painter than I am. I saw he recently did one using airbrushing, and I'm leaving that to him. But I do have another one of the Gearbox kits that I ordered, plus when he got this Ezekiel kit, he got one for me too. So I have all of the parts. Now I know some of you are going to ask, and no, I don't plan to put the half dart system into Ire. Ire is going to stay full-length darts. I do want to open her up and do some serious improvements to her, because my skills and knowledge and tool set have expanded incredibly since I first built her, and pretty much all of her internals could use a reworking. But I do plan to build her essentially a little sister using the half dart kit, just because I'd like to keep Ire the way she is, but then have one of these for myself. I will probably do a different master key. Probably do a Magnus just because it's simpler, and the functionality that I really need is there, so that will probably be how that will work out. Looking forward to that. When I do that one, I will then show the full rewire. And there really isn't a whole lot that goes on to rewiring a Stampede, but there are some questions that some of you may have, and I will cover that in that video. Alright, enough blather, on to the range! We are losing daylight, so there's a bit of a glare on the targets. I apologize for that. Alright, we are going to start with a Talon Mag loaded with Gen 3 workers. A little less abused. We'll see what we get. Can we hit a target at 25? Oh, yes we can. How about a little further back? Oh, yep. I hit, oh, the 50. I can! Oh, I almost hit the 75. Come on, oh! Round's complete! Ah! Blocking the targets. You can't see a thing. So back of my head. I said it could take Talon Mag, so I'm gonna actually demonstrate that. Okay. Filter targets. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh. Damn. Oh yeah. Wicked jam. All kinds of a jam. Oh yeah. Let's get that in there upside down, fold it, and backwards. Turns out clearing a jam ain't so easy. Come on. Oh. Mangled. Try it again. There we go. I like it. I want one. I'm gonna make myself one. I got the stuff. All right. Well, yeah. The fact that I was able to hit the 50 and almost reach out to the 75, the 25s are a good easy hit. I approve. I approve. I will probably actually try to make the necessary tweaks to get it on 3S. The rate of fire is a little bit slow on that spring load. Either that or I will drop the spring load, which is actually more likely because if I build this, I'm going to want to use it for HVZ, and so I'd be aiming for that 100 mark, which this was popping up into the 140s. So if I drop it down to like a 7K spring, maybe a 6K spring, I would probably get about there, and then it would be able to run on 2S with a slightly high rate of fire. I think. We'll find out when I build it. Alright, I'm done talking about it. This thing was pretty cool. This needs some work. It needs a new O-ring and some lube. Maybe some gizmos to be attached to it. Should be fun. Alright, that's enough about this thing. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. You know how it works. And now, for the gratuitous glamour shots. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. I like it. Be even better when it's painted.